Hey everybody, John Gopinski with GameCoreOnline.com here. Today we are bringing you four-color good stuff played by myself, John Gopinski, versus Matt Timko, a local player in Erie, Pennsylvania at our shop, GameCore. We basically were looking to do a live stream on Twitch a couple weeks back to show off what the deck could do a little bit. We ran into a little bit of technical difficulty and we're not able to provide that, so I wanted to get some matches on film here. So we went ahead and we filmed the entirety of our Friday Night Magic. The deck, I don't want to spoil too much, but right here we're playing against Frites, as you could tell by the title, of course. It's a pretty good matchup. I think Selesnya Charm is very important in this matchup. So you'll see I sandbag it for quite a while in any of the games that I have it here. Matt starts off with a really nice mulch here in the beginning. I believe he hits Lingering Souls. Yep, there it was. And obviously a lot of land. We are both on the mull to 6, so it really did hurt him more, I would say, to go on the mull because he'd have been able to discard right there, having gotten 3 lands off of the mulch, which could start with a pretty explosive start. Taking a look here, it looks like the Frites player has Lingering Souls, Unburial Rites, just drew a Temple Garden. It's going to take 2 damage there, bringing that into play untapped. I have Rootbound Crag, Rakdos Charm, Angel of Serenity, Huntmaster. Believe there's a Borderland Ranger in there somewhere. So right here, he's brought down his Deathrite Shaman. I'm pretty sure he's had this for a couple turns here, so I'm not sure why he waited to play it instead of taking the 2 damage and going on turn 1. He knew what I was playing. I mean, I guess if you're afraid you're going to run into like zombies or one of those early matchups, you can't really afford to pay that 2 life early. But at the same time, a Deathrite Shaman on turn 1 against zombies could be pretty saucy in of itself. So turn 3 here. Believe I dropped the Rootbound Crag and go for the Rakdos Keyrune. Yeah, Rakdos Keyrune is really, really good. A lot of these Frites matchups, they are running Thrag Tusks and, and some Centaur Healers, things of that nature, to kind of give them some early game against a lot of the aggressive decks. But the Rakdos Keyrune is just a boss in this matchup, especially with the tricks that you're packing. I mean, with Selesnya Charm, you're looking to make it a 5/5 or rather a 5/3 first striker at instant speed. So I see Matt did decide to go with Lingering Souls last turn and leave his mana open this turn rather than playing the other Lingering Souls. This matchup, honestly, I had to do a lot of sideboard changes, and since you've seen the deck post that I put last, there have been a few changes. Most notably, I did up the Selesnya Charm by 1 while bringing Armada Worm down 1. I can't remember the exact sideboard that I had during the last video, but I did end up going with the Rest in Peace over the Ground Seals, because ultimately the drawing the card, as important as I was expecting it to be, it just wasn't better than removing the graveyard the second that it hit, and especially with a lot of spells that had flashback, whereas you don't get any effect out of the Ground Seal there. Kind of a glare on that card. I can't tell you exactly what it is. I think that it's just a mana dork, and he extends even further with his Lingering Souls here, hoping to maybe, I don't know, come over the top with a Crater Hoof or just, push a lot of damage to this guy. So right here he's swaying with 2 of the Lingering Souls tokens. Okay, yeah, it was an Avacyn's Pilgrim that he put down. And I miracle a Bonfire here. So pretty good timing on that one. Bonfire not seeing a lot of play. I mean, obviously Blue-White Miracles is the popular deck right now. Blue-White-Red, Blue-White, the different variants. Entreat the Angels, essentially. So people are opting to play Mizium Mortars over Bonfire. I personally don't put a lot of faith in that deck. I don't think that it'll be a strong contender as we move forward. So Bonfire to me still just has the blowout potential, and running 4 of them in a deck that, pseudo ramps with Farseeks, there's a lot of possibility for me to do some ridiculous stuff, just hard casting. I mean, you see a lot of decks right now running out cheap, like humans, cheap creatures, zombies, cheap creatures, and then, Frites and mid-range decks opting on the mana dorks. So here's another deck running Armada Worm. I've noticed Armada Worm hasn't been as popular as I had anticipated, but I can tell you I've really enjoyed him in my deck. A little piece of news. I did play in PA States with this last week, and I ended up going 5-1-1, drawing to what I think was a top 8 spot, or what I thought would be a top 8 spot. And my tiebreakers just took a nosedive in the last round, ended up in 9th. So this deck's been doing some really good stuff. F&M's 4-1, 4-0-1. States 5-1-1. So I mean, the deck in tournament results has been putting up some really good numbers. And right here, I've opted to let my Huntmaster flip, since I had Restoration Angel and I had Selesnya Charm. Now, like I said, I'm trying to sandbag the Selesnya Charm as much as possible, because I don't know if he's running it at this point, but a lot of these decks are running the Angel of Serenity and Grizzlebrand, and I wanted to make sure that I had an instant speed answer to any of those threats. Now, in this situation, I wasn't really banking on the player forgetting that I had shot his Armada Worm for 2, but I definitely knew the possibility he would forget was there, giving me the opportunity to make this play where I block with the 3-1 First Striker, causing him to kind of tilt a little bit. He had kind of forgotten about that for a moment. Ultimately, it was my intent that he just wouldn't attack with the Armada Worm, essentially giving me the opportunity to hold back. I think, giving it second thought and kind of watching the match play out, I'd have rather shot the token, simply because his deck is likely not going to be running Restoration Angel, being that it's a Frites build, but he does have Unburial Rights and could potentially be bringing the token back from his graveyard. So ultimately, probably behooves my line of play to kind of keep that Armada Worm physically on the table to prevent it recurring. I don't think he recurs it here. I think he goes with the spread them out kind of tactic. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I obviously presenting Restoration Angel and flipping my guy to get the mana to play the Angel of Serenity here is an absolute blowout. But that's some of the synergies that this deck really provides, that maybe you don't notice on the surface, but Restoration Angel with either a Huntmaster, a Thragtusk, or in some cases you'll see with an Armada Worm, you can present lethal very quickly by going end of turn Restoration Angel on Thragtusk or the Armada Worm, and then following up next turn Angel of Serenity. You have no blockers. I'm swinging with just an absurd amount of damage. The screen here is not exactly fit properly, so you don't see. I'm pretty sure that I have the Rakdos Charm and maybe a token off to the side there. I haven't been keeping good track there as we've been commentating here, but yeah, the other thing that I really like is, since everybody's playing Thragtusk is, as vulnerable as he gets when you're looking at a Selesnya Charm. I mean, Selesnya Charm comes in and exiles the Thragtusk. Well, when you're swinging with trample creatures, that's combat math that people don't expect. So your opponent blocks, say, your Armada Worm or your flipped Huntmaster, and you exile that Thragtusk or their Armada Worm, the trample damage now comes over entirely, and they still take all that damage as though it weren't blocked. So there's some nice synergies there to really finish people off with some damage. And at this point, the game's over for Matt. He could potentially play, a Grizzlebrand or something that would make him feel like he could get by for another turn. But I do have the Dreadbore in hand. So at this point, the game's over. I believe he Unburial Rights the Armada Worm and then just kind of looks at the field and realizes that it's over. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about, and I'm going to bring a screen up here in a second, but GameCoreOnline.com isn't quite launched yet. We're kind of in the beta stages getting that stuff fixed up. But anything you can do to help us get the word out, we'd really appreciate it. So what we got for you guys is basically, if you go ahead and like us on Gamecore LLC on Facebook, we're going to give you 1 entry. Now, if you comment on the video directly on this page, we're going to give you 3 entries to win the box of Return to Ravnica. If you share on Twitter or Facebook in a way that we can track your share, we're going to give you 5 entries to win the box of Return to Ravnica. And if you go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, we're going to go ahead and give you 10 entries. So that's a pretty sweet thing. You can always go back to it, rewind, pause on it if you need to find any of the information there. This game, Game 2, I will tell you, I did some sideboarding. I took out 4 Bonfire and 2 Rakdos Return. I brought in 4 Rest in Peace, 1 Slaughter Games, and 1 Sever the Bloodline. My thought was Rest in Peace, obviously it's going to be a nightmare for a Frites style deck. And now, they're kind of mid-rangey, so you're not just going to take them out of the game by playing Rest in Peace. I mean, they can hardcast Lingering Souls, hardcast Trolls, hardcast Thragtusk, hardcast Grizzlebrand or Angel. I mean, they have a lot of play still, and a lot of decks that's not going to be enough. I feel like in this deck, particularly in 4-color good stuff, we play such a threatening package to go with it. I can't really see losing post landing a Rest in Peace. So that's why I went ahead and I put in 4 of them. Obviously if you draw more than 1, you could potentially be drawing dead, but a deck like his could very easily be playing boarding a Ray of Revelation or any of those flashback cards that destroy enchantments. So we want to make sure that we're not vulnerable to that kind of stuff. And at the same time, there are cards specifically in their deck that become completely dead the moment that card hits the board. Mulch, that new green-black one, I can't think of the name of it. Grizzly Salvage, that's it. Unburial Rites, they all just kind of get stuck in their hands. So ultimately, if we get stuck with a couple, as I do in this game, it's not the end of the world because it's kind of going to happen evenly between the 2 players. So Lotleth Troll here early. This deck gains so much life as like a secondary ability. The deck's not really hunting to gain life, but it's doing so as it increases its field position, whether it's a Huntmaster or it's a Thragtusk. So some early damage really isn't important. And as you'll see in this game, life totals can be very deceiving. Life totals sometimes, they can almost work against you. You get a big life total and you think you're untouchable or you're too far ahead. But I can tell you, in a format where the threats are Thragtusks and big creatures like that, I mean, huge chunks of life can come off you in no time. So in this game, he's gonna go ahead and throw up a buffer, we'll say here. He's got the Centaur Healer, he's gonna gain some life. He's got the Lotleth Troll with regen backup. It doesn't look like I've got a whole lot going on here. So he's kind of chipping away at me, and I don't think that this is the kind of game that he wants to see, a late game, or should I say he's probably fine with seeing a late game. I mean, he's better off not just trying to rush damage out there, but he is going with the quick aggressive strategy here. He's got double Thragtusk in his hand. He does have an Unburial Rite stuck in his hand that he's not going to be able to play. And I'll tell you what, Vault of the Archangel is a very underrated card right now. Both really, that and Gavany Township are very powerful cards right now and very hard for 4-color good stuff to deal with. Now, my newest list actually features 3 Pithing Needle in my sideboard. Whether it be to deal with Planeswalkers, but mostly, because I have run into some issue with Gavany Township specifically. I think this is the first time that I ran into Vault of the Archangel. But it just makes things like Mana Dorks and smaller guys really threaten to trade with Armada Worms and very powerful creatures, Lingering Souls tokens with Angels of Serenity. So the card is very good, and it's going to be an uphill battle to beat through it. Matt Timko's board state developing really nicely for him this game. Both players, we got to keep 7 this time, so we really got to show the true power of our decks. And, I don't know exactly what he sideboarded in against my deck, but in this situation, we did get to see our sideboard cards. And, they're really doing some damage here. I mean, that Unburial Rights could have really helped him out a lot. And he's also got a mulch, so he's got 2 dead cards. So myself showing my hand there to show you that I have Restoration Angel and Selesnya Charm. My opponent was kind of worried that I had tricks when I did not tap out, but that's obvious. So just showing my opponent there that I have a couple Rest in Peace in hand. Kind of a psychological warfare, I guess. So here he's got the Vault up, and I know he's going to use it, so I feel comfortable either letting our Thragtusks trade if he doesn't use it, and if he does use it, then I prevent him from gaining 5 life here by blocking and then flipping with the Restoration Angel. So effectively I take nothing, and his life continues to rise. But like I said before, in a match like this, it's going to come down to card advantage. It's going to come down to who's got board presence last. And if you look at either one of our fields, if either player has no field, you're talking about increments of 10 damage on either side of the board per swing. I mean, that's still only 2 turns for my life total, and 3 to 4 for my opponent. So life is important when you're playing against some black-red zombies or black-green zombies, or Rakdos, mono-red, those really quick humans. I mean, I've seen some really quick human variants at States. Still kind of a little sore about not getting that top 8 there. The only real loss coming when I mauled to 6 and got stuck on 3 against green-black zombies, and then losing in game 3 to a flood. But that's the thing is, the deck, sometimes you feel comfortable keeping a hand with a little bit more mana. I did keep a 4-lander with a Farseek, a Rakdos, Keyrune, and a Dreadbore. I felt really good about having the Farseek into the Keyrune against zombies to kind of hold them back. And the Keyrune really did do a lot of work, but when you unearth a Dregmauler onto a Geralf's Messenger, you get past that first strike damage, and then all of a sudden there's a lot of damage coming, and especially when you get a Rancor on there like he did in that game. Again, that was my States matchup. That was the round that I lost, not pertaining directly to this game. But getting back to this game, the card advantage is kind of prominent here, because I have 1 card in my hand that I can't use, but now he has a couple cards in his hand that he can't use. He's got the Mulch, he's got the Unburial Rights, he's got the Grizzlebrand, and it's just unfortunate for him he's not getting the mana to get that Grizzlebrand out. He's got some mana dorks here, so he can ramp out land, but Grizzlebrand, that's 4 black mana. That's a challenge. I mean, I would like to run Grizzlebrand. I mean, you can tell I'm greedy. You see what I'm running, but I don't really foresee getting 4 black mana consistently. Anyways, I mean, just like I don't see getting 3 red mana consistently from Mizium Mortar. And I also I have had a couple suggestions to use Chromatic Lantern. I guess this is my opportunity to kind of give you guys some of my opinion on Chromatic Lantern. I don't like Chromatic Lantern. Ultimately it's a very fun card, and in some format maybe you'll find some way to abuse it. But in Standard, ultimately the lands that they've given us already give us such a great mana base to work with that I don't need all my lands to tap for any color mana that I want. I'd much rather have the usefulness of having the manland kind of effect out of my artifacts, and especially the Rakdos Keyrune. It really is the best one. I thought when they were spoiled that perhaps the Azorius Keyrune would be the best, but that 3/1 first strike, it just works out where you have exactly the right power to deal with the best threats in the format. It stops messengers, all of the zombies, and then Thragtusk and Huntmaster and Centaur Healer. I mean, the list goes on. Like, the card is truly phenomenal. I heard a Star City guy mention on when he was commentating that there was random that the one guy had 2 Rakdos Keyrune in his deck, and I thought it's kind of the opposite of random. I mean, you don't really need too many, but you definitely want to have a couple in there. I mean, they're good for your mana fixing, they're good for your mana acceleration, and again, like, they're just an absolute powerhouse. And once you deal with your opponent's side of the field, it's really nice to be able to just have an extra 3 damage coming over the top with whatever it is that you're trying to do. So like in this situation, I have a Thragtusk, a Restoration Angel, the Hunt Master token. Well, when I get rid of his side of the field, that Rakdos Key Rune's an extra 3 damage every time I swing. But right now, if I had it, all it would be is ramping me up to be able to play, a turn 4 Thragtusk or a turn 5 Armada Worm, or even help me cast an earlier Angel of Serenity. So the card's very versatile. I'm not sure exactly what I have off the screen here. Trying to see my hand where it stands now. I believe that I just ripped an Armada Worm, and I'm debating whether or not I want to put it out there, because ultimately I don't want him to save his Mana Dorks, and I don't want him to save his 3/3, knowing that he will be able to trade by activating the Vault of the Archangel. So I'm going to bait him a little bit here. I'm going to let him keep doing, his thing and pushing his stuff. Meanwhile, I'm going to sandbag this Selesnya Charm in case he has a Grizzlebrand, which I didn't know it at the time, but he definitely does have the Grizzlebrand. So you'll see me here. I'm thinking for a little bit. I hadn't quite realized yet that both of his green-black lands were lands that were not swamps. They're actually the woodland cemeteries. So he can't untap them with the Arbor Elf in an attempt to play Grizzlebrand. So my thought here was that in case he drew Grizzlebrand, I wanted to remove one of his Arbor Elves. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let Huntmaster flip and kill one of the Arbor Elves to potentially kind of hold him off of the black mana that he needs. But I mean, at the same time, it's a smart play, because if I can get rid of both of them prior to him drawing an Overgrown Tomb, then I can keep him off of Grizzlebrand. And so here he just drew another Woodland Cemetery. So he's getting ever closer to this Grizzlebrand that I'm not aware that it's there, but I think that I can deal with it with the Selesnya Charm. Now, if he had it on this turn, he has so much life, he's going to get a full grip, and he'll probably end up beating me. But so right here, he's going to swing. I'm aware that he's going to Vault to the Archangel, but ultimately, every turn that he decides to Vault to the Archangel, it's not a turn that he's really advancing his board. So I'm fine with that. I have pretty good board position here. I know that I have the Armada Worm, so I want to just get as many of his creatures off the field as I can before I present Armada Worm. So him informing me that he was actually attacking with both. I was unclear with how many he was attacking. So blocks there. 35-17 seems pretty lopsided, right? So, after you guys watch these videos, I really appreciate any feedback. I am kind of new to this. I've been playing Magic for quite a while. I got my first Pro Tour invite to Pro Tour Berlin back in 2008 while I was playing Fairies and Block. And then I did have another opportunity on the Pro Tour in February of 2011 at Pro Tour Paris. So didn't really do very well at either one of those. I do feel, that I have something to bring to Magic the Gathering, and that I'm, a decently strong player, but I really want to work on what I'm doing, and I've been having a good time with these videos, so I hope you guys are all enjoying them. And, hey, even if you don't like the videos and you just want to, leave me some pointers or some things that you think that I could do better in the comments, all that stuff is appreciated. If you ever do get a chance to come to Erie, Pennsylvania, we have a really awesome place to play, a lot of space. We have our first PTQ coming up on March 16th. It's a modern format. It's right here at GameCore. You can find the address right on our Facebook page, which is just www.facebook.com/GameCore LLC, spelled the same way you see it there on the screen with the CORPS, kind of like Corps of Engineers type spelling. So I got the Armada Worm down. He's at 30. He's got the 3 blockers. I'm just going to whittle him away here a little bit at a time through the air because I don't want to sacrifice my Armada Worm or my Armada Worm tokens to a couple of 1/1s, especially having the Restoration Angel. I know that I can get an additional 5/5 and 3/4 flyer, which is, that's a good 8 damage that he doesn't see coming at the end of turn, plus the Selesnya charm. So there's a lot of damage that he doesn't really know about coming. Right here, second guessing myself, like seeing it again, I definitely should have attacked with the 3/3. Because again, like I said, I just want to clear his board. And if he trades 3/3 with 3/3, that's fantastic. If he trades, 1/1 with 3/3 and activates his Vault of the Archangel, it's not ideal, but then he's not killing my Armada Worm tokens next turn. So I think I opt here to go one more turn with waiting. I think that was a mistake. Ultimately, I should have brought the Restoration Angel in right there, because when I crack at him this time, I would be able to push enough damage that if he did play Grizzlebrand, he wouldn't be able to draw 7 off of it. Or if he did, then I would just remove Grizzlebrand after he assumed that he would have it to block, because he'd be tapped out from the Grizzlebrand. I'd remove it. He'd have a nice full grip, but he would be at 2, 3, 4 life, something like that, and I'd have, a nice army of creatures. So giving him this extra turn to draw, apparently, which all he needed was another black source to play Grizzlebrand, was definitely a mistake on my part. It is possible that, being that he would have had to tap at least the 1 mana dork and then not have the Vault of the Archangel mana open, that the Selesnya charm would have got there anyways, because when I attacked, I would have let him block an Armada Worm or token with the Grizzlebrand, assuming he was going to gain 7 life, exiled it with Selesnya charm. He'd have taken that damage plus, and then he would have ended up at a very low life total, and potentially even having a full grip wouldn't have saved him at that point. But, those are things that you really never know. And, to play Magic at the highest level, to do your best, it's all about taking those number of turns out of your opponent's hand and kind of giving them less options than you have. So at this point, you can see, he's just getting cards stuck in his hands. He couldn't afford to play the Thragtusk and keep back the Vault. Right. No, actually, he could have. So let's see. He has 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, he has exactly enough mana that he could have done that. So I think that would have been the right play. I'm not really sure why he didn't. I think maybe he's just kind of on tilt for not drawing his 4th black source. But this swing here is going to be lethal, because no matter what he's planning on doing, he's losing his side of the field, and he's taking, I believe it's 16 damage. So here he's going to go to 8, leaves him pretty much dead to any draw that I can imagine him having. I suppose if he would have drawn an Angel of Serenity, that would have looked like it was bringing him back in. But again, since I did hold the Selesnya charm, I would have just gotten back whatever he took. So he's going to block here. He blocks the 3 Armada Worms, the worm and 2 tokens, takes the trample damage, gains 5, and takes the damage from the Angels. So that's going to put him down to 8 life, and essentially the game's over. But like I said, a little bit that I want to touch on is, since you haven't had the opportunity to see exactly what GameCore Online's all about yet, we are kind of your traditional singles sales. We have, Magic cards all the way back to Alpha. I have a Alpha Black Lotus and stuff that's going on there, and all kinds of really good stuff. But what sets us apart a little bit is that, you're also going to be able to buy flat screen TVs, Xbox 360s, used games, new games, all that kind of stuff. So if you're ever looking to trade in your collection, you can get a little more and store credit, and then you can use that to maybe buy a laptop or something that you need for college, or maybe you have a bunch of old Xbox 360 games or old PlayStation 3 games, and you want to trade them in, you want to turn them into Magic cards. That's some fun stuff that, we present for you guys to be able to do that is a lot different than what other websites do. So if you have any questions, you can also email us at gamecorphq@gmail.com. So that's Gamecorp, GAMECORPS, HQ as in headquarters, at gmail.com. So I want to thank everybody for watching the video with us. This is about going to wrap it up here with this swing. I come down with the Selesnya charm to give the +2, so you can see how versatile that card is. I have a bunch more of these videos coming just from this F&M alone, so I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys next time.